The leaders, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Sorry about my voice. Until we know who we are as Africans, we can never get anywhere. Today, the African is living in a shadow created by other people. We don't actually know who we are. A lot of us don't know a lot of things. But do you know this as a brother in Africa, as a Muslim, or as a Christian? We are living in a world of other people. We are not who we are supposed to be as Africans, yet we call ourselves Africans. How can you be practicing an Arab culture, an European culture, and still want freedom? You can never get this freedom because you have thrown your identity away. If truly we want to be free as Africans, we need to start accepting who we are. Go back to our roots. Study to know who we are. There are a lot of things that are buried that we the Africans have no knowledge of. That is why always I tell you, until you give back what other people gave to us and undo what they have made us, it will be very difficult for us to move forward. We need to understand that before we can actually fight for this freedom, we need to be who we are. We need to accept who we are. Everything of the African is either demonic, is either primitive, and these are the narratives we are buying into.
If one does not know the history, one would not know that it was the Muslims coming out of the Ottoman Empire that was running a slave trade system in Africa for 1,500 years before the transatlantic slave trade.
1,500 years.
1,500 years. The trans-Saharan slave trade, the trans-Indian Ocean slave trade is in the hands of the Turks and the Arab Muslims. They devastated Africa even before the European Christian got there.
Yep.
When the European Christian came, he simply tapped into a system that was already in place for 1,500 years. You understand me? People like say, oh, your own people sold you. Maybe we had, and we know we had some corrupt people, but they were minimal. But if you don't know that history, then you make false assumptions on relationships. So we must study the history. We must study the history to understand the many wars. If you go into northern Ghana, there are houses up in the areas near Paga, where the only opening is on the roof, and they only have slits in the wall to shoot their bow and arrows. The house was designed to defend themselves against the foreign slave traders. The door to the compound was only 2 feet high. You had to crawl to get into the courtyard. So if you were the enemy, I could take your head. So when you see a people leave that you can go and visit now, and you see a people leave that, then you see the legacy of how they fought against slavery. You can go to Seliga. Yes, Seliga was the biggest market, okay? But at the same time, all around Seliga, we fought great wars to free our people. That's just one occasion. So history will erase the white man's mystery and let us learn the truth about
history will liberate the white man's mystery.
Mystery, yes. History will erase the white man's mystery.
Wow.
What I asked this question. If my enemy and I are worshiping the same God, and my enemy has brought that God to me, who do you think that God's going to serve?
That God is your enemy. That God is your enemy.
The philosophy, the culture behind the church is wrong. The church isn't wrong. The Bible has some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful imperatives. The Quran has some beautiful imperatives, things one can do as a human being to be a better human being to other human beings, to live in harmony and peace. But if you deny the very essence of yourself, your culture, Because if you deny your culture, you've denied your ancestors. How can anybody read a book that says, honor thy mother and thy father, that your days may be long upon the land? Well, the reason our days ain't long because we're not honoring the African mothers and fathers. Live what you preach. How can you say God is made in my image and I walk in church and see a bearded white man? How is that in my image? And then say, oh, God has no color. Then take the white man down. Put him away. Burn it. And just put a cross up there. I agree.
Somebody said
the Bible, but the man's interpretation. Yes, that's true to a degree, but if in any aspect of Christianity or Islam, you leave the culture of Africa behind. If you tell me that my murderer can bring me a religion worthy of my devotion and worship, but my mother and father's religion I will urinate on and will not register it as even having significance, then you can burn your Bible, your Quran, and everything else, because it's worthless. Look at the condition of our continent and tell me how powerful it is. Yes, it has great wisdom in it, but I can find that wisdom in African culture. Yes, it has great stories, but I can find those stories in African culture before them. Why do I need the white man interpretation of the story that my father created to guide me?
And I, as a thinking person, would never allow a thief, an enslaver, a raper, a murderer to describe for me my religious and spiritual boundaries.
Are you referring to someone in particular?
No, I'm referring to a culture. You know, when we think in terms of people of African ancestry who have been stolen by the tens of millions and enslaved all over the world, but most people don't know that it was Pope Eugenius IV who authorized the first papal bull giving the Portuguese the right to enslave African people. Now, it says in the Bible, in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not kill. So if Europeans just followed those two commandments, we would be having this conversation in Africa sitting under a mango tree. But the mere fact that the Pope said that Africans, or Negroes as the Portuguese called us, were not human beings, that we did not possess a soul, that then made it possible for every European nation, with the exception of Russia, to go in and steal tens of millions of African men, women, and children in the name of the Lord. So these are issues that are real, that are rarely discussed, but they need to be discussed if we're truly going to understand how we got where we are and truly develop a meaningful relationship with the Creator.
A Namibian chief, and actually he was being beheaded. He was being beheaded. But when that story went out in the media, it was shared as he was being treated. Now I want you to sit with that for a minute and understand the power of twisted narratives to control and to determine what happens in a society and community. Today, this was hundreds of years ago, over 100 years ago. Today, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to social media or go to Google and just Google propaganda, troll farms or factories, just Google it and take a look at how many of them are focusing on African dynamics, on African issues that are not even on the continent, but that help to direct, shape, divide, build conflict in terms of how we think and the things we do. And then when you've studied that, I want to ask yourself, who has the time and energy to invest in troll factories and farms to shape African and African diaspora conversations, and to what end? I say this to emphasize the fact that while we are not strategic about our storytelling and our voices and what we do and how we do it, there are actors who are highly strategic. And whether they are looking to gain resource on the African continent, whether they are looking to shape political discourse for one reason or another, we are innocently and naive, in a naive position of having our own agendas controlled by others. It's not something I enjoy saying, but it is a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me then to say to you that African narrative sovereignty is one of the most important things that Africa can do today to drive change and transformation and build a future of Africa that Africans aspire to see. What does this mean? This means tell your stories. Tell the story of what you see and what you experience every single day. And where you think change needs to come from, use your voice. Whether it's in your boardroom, in your organization, in your school.
This world is all about branding and marketing. The number one branders in the universe is the United States. They made the United States seem like it's the best place of the world to be. It's the land of the free, home of the brave. I go there to find and chase my dreams. We have to be able to tell our own stories. Directors, filmmakers, entertainers, it's going to be clearly, and the press, it's going to be your job to redefine how people think about Africa. Because you're here, you see what's going on. You clearly can see in a vivid picture the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you choose to put out there is what the world is going to get. Because I can tell you right now, in Chicago alone, there's more people dying in Chicago than there was in the war in Iraq. But you would never see that. There's a lot of things that's happening in the U.S. that you would never see because they choose to show you what they want you to see. It's about country integrity. You have a certain reputation you have to keep. No one puts their family business out into the street. One of the problems we have in Africa is that when something happens, the press is quick to put out negative energy and quick to put out a negative story. And then that story goes on to internet, then other broadcasting systems take it and they post it. So when you look at places like Kenya, for instance, that I know of, maybe 2 terrorist attacks, but it was everywhere. So now people was afraid to go to Kenya because somebody shot up the mall. But then when you look online, there was over 25,000 attacks in the US, but you only knew about maybe 5 or 6. So we have to really rebrand. And then when you look at how the world perceives Africa, they're right. You know, you see zebras, lions, tigers, bears. Oh my. You get to the point where you think Africa's just a big jungle. The images that they're showing of Africa is historical images. This is way before civilization. This is when they were still, battling with spears, like times of Shaka Zulu. No, I'm serious. But then when you look at the US, they're showing Superman, Batman, Where is our Superman? Where is our, Shaka Zulu should be a superhero.
How do we Africans worship your colonizers' God? Do we really think the way this colonizer in human flesh is treating us, the God will treat us different? If there is anything good, will their God give it to you, the black person? Why are we trying to be other people, yet we want freedom? Yet we want to move forward? Yet we want the whole world to respect us? It is not possible. There is nobody that will ever respect us as Africans if we don't embrace our culture, our identity. We are living in a life of other people because we are trying to be called civilized people. We are treated anyhow worldwide because they have succeeded in molding us to suit themselves. I just found out something, and I'll find time to elaborate more on that. That actually, Israel was supposed to be in Uganda, Kampala, way before we even had these wars. The narrative they sold to us, that a lot of things happened to these people and that is why they migrated to wherever. No. So if they succeeded, what we are seeing happening to other people today would have been happening in Africa. And the Holy Land would have been in Africa. We actually need to wake up as Africans. We don't have to allow ourselves to be blindfolded with religion so much. Let's try to be Africans. Let's try our best to go back to our roots, to accept who we are as a people. There is nothing demonic about anything we do. Whatever our forefathers did was for a reason. Look at how they were even fighting their enemies. All these houses they told us were primitive. Our forefathers have reasons for putting up these houses. Like he said, they know how to crawl inside the yard. But you, a stranger, will find it difficult. So whenever you are coming to attack them, it is very easy for them to have access to you. They broke all these things that give us strength in order for them to have power to control us, to destroy us. And that is why today the African is so vulnerable that any other person in the world can have access to us, because we have lost power. And the dream of other people that we are living in, we don't have any clue about what they have given to us. So we are easily controlled, because you are defenseless. Until we move back to being who we are as Africans, then we need to forget of fighting for freedom. And until we are ready to accept who we are, go to India. They don't care what other people say about them and their religion. They were equally colonized, but they told them, we can never throw our God away. But Africans were easily deceived that today we can fight and unalive ourselves, all in the name of the colonizers' gods that they've given to us. These things succeeded in dividing us to the point that I can't eat your food, because if you slaughter something, you are impure, you are not holy, so I'm not supposed to eat it. I can't marry you simply because of your religion. And before I will be in your family and you are this, I need to be you. I need to be a foreigner before I can actually be with my brother. These are all things that they have used to weaken you, the African. The Arabs don't love you. Islam wasn't given to you because they love you. They gave it to you for a motive. And these people are still having slaves. And it is the Africans that are still slaves. But we still don't see it, because we have allowed their religion to blindfold us. Let's wake up as Africans. Let's fight. Let us be who we are. Our originality is what will give us the freedom. Everything black is beautiful. There are not some aspect of African that is beautiful. There is nothing primitive about us as Africans. Black is beautiful. Religion, our food, our culture, our tradition, our everything is beautiful. And until we accept that, we'll never go anywhere. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make African great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. In Africa.